It's funny, you bring up the 90s, and my mind always goes to not the roles necessarily or the critical reception, but the waiting rooms, specifically the old Fox lot, Burbank. Remember that place? The one with the strange, faint smell of something like burnt toast and desperation? It was distinct, and the air conditioning was always set to meat locker, in July, swamp, in October. You just sit there, you just shrink, thinking, this is where they decide if you're a winner or another sad sack. You'd see the same guys, never knew who you were up against, but you just knew it was going to be, well, a grim parade.
Yeah. Burnt toast and desperation. That's an accurate olfactory summation, William. I always thought it leaned more towards stale coffee and a faint whiff of whatever the intern spilled. But the desperation? Certainly the pervasive top note. You could taste it in the lighting. That fluorescent hum, like 1,000 dying flies, casting everyone in this sickly, greenish pallor, as if the goal was to make you look miserable even before you read for angry bureaucrat or corrupt sheriff. They didn't want subtlety. They wanted the caricature. You just sat there, waiting for the cattle call, knowing they weren't looking for a man who could juggle fire.
Exactly. You're just a block of marble they want to hack away at, hoping to find the villain they already envisioned. It was like going into battle, but with less honor and more bad coffee. I remember I really tried, early on, to show them well, that I wasn't just the guy who trips over his own feet. I try to inject, a bit of unexpected lightness, or a genuine pathos into these roles they wanted to be so one-dimensional. Like, I can do physical comedy. I worked for months, to learn how to juggle and ride a unicycle for Pleasantville, thinking, this will show them. I'm not just the sad sack dad. And then you'd walk into that Fox room, and they just looked at you, expecting the same old thing. It was disheartening, really. A real kick in the, well, you know.
Oh, they saw what they wanted to see, William. Always. Doesn't matter if you're juggling flaming chainsaws. If they've decided you're the guy who's going to get punched, or the guy who does the punching, then that's your lot. It's a strange business, built on patterns and preconceived notions. My old man, he spent his life navigating a different kind of Washington, where you might think foresight was valued. But in Hollywood, sometimes it's just about fitting you into the neatest, most easily marketable box they can find, no matter how many unicycles you mastered.
Yeah, well, Clancy, that's a fair point. A very fair point. But look, Clancy, I brought you here to talk about the project. The one that got away. Well, Clancy, people, they see me, and they have this idea, this categorization, and I appreciate it, I do. The shinny, hapless everyman. The Cheyenne, anxious schmo. The Cheyenne, guy who means well but invariably steps in it. And, well, I've made a career out of plumbing the depths of that particular human condition. The quiet desperation, the moral ambiguity of, just trying to get through a Tuesday. And it's rich territory. But there's more to it than that, isn't there?
You've certainly brought a lot of dignity to the schmo. It's not an easy thing to do, Bill, to make us root for the guy who's just barely treading water.
Treading water. Yes. And sometimes you find yourself wondering, what if he wasn't just treading? What if he was charting the currents, mapping the very molecular structure of the water itself, and everyone else just dismissed it as, another neurotic quirk? The man who sees the patterns, the hidden lines, the almost imperceptible flaws that, for everyone else, just blend into the static.
Sounds like a different kind of character for you. More proactive, maybe?
Proactive? Well, perhaps not in the way Hollywood defines it, not with a gun and a snappy one-liner. More preactive, preemptive, you might say. I wrote a screenplay, years ago. Shopped it around. Everyone loved the writing, they said. The voice was impeccable, but too niche, Bill. Too quiet. Where's the plot, Bill? Where's the hero? And I just look at them and think, the hero is right there. He's the one nobody listens to.
Ah, the classic tale. The prophet in the wilderness, but with your particular brand of prophet.
Precisely. And the title, I call it, The Catalog of Slight Errors.
The Catalog of Slight Errors. Huh. Interesting. Very precise.
Precise, yes. That's the word. And that's our protagonist, you see. A man named Arthur Pym. Not a detective, not an academic. He's, well, he's an inventory specialist for a regional power grid. He works in a basement, surrounded by server racks and the hum of fluorescent lights. And a particular smell. That ozone, stale coffee, dust the scent of neglected data.
Sounds like a familiar environment. Probably a lot of those inventory specialists out there.
Oh, Clancy, you have no idea. Thousands. Millions, perhaps. But Arthur sees. He doesn't just catalog, he perceives. He sees the ghost in the machines. Not literally, of course. But the almost imperceptible drift, the tiny, statistically insignificant aberrations that, when viewed through his unique lens, coalesce into something monumental, something terrifying. Ideally, we shoot this on 70 millimeters, for the texture, the grain, the way light behaves. We open on a single, meticulously arranged stack of obsolete circuit boards, resting on a dusty, scratched Formica countertop. The fluorescent lights above hum, buzzing like a trapped fly. We're in a storage room, deep within the bowels of the Regional Power Authority headquarters. A stark, almost clinical light spills across the scene, highlighting every fleck of dust, every minute imperfection on the boards. The camera, it drifts, a slow, almost imperceptible pan, just grazing the surface of a metal shelf, catching the way the dust motes dance in the singular, narrow beam of a security camera's red eye. Panavision lenses, for sure. We hold there, just long enough for you to feel the quiet, the almost spiritual desolation of the place. And then, a shadow. Long, thin, deliberate. Arthur Pym, my character, steps into the frame, but we only see his shoes. Polished, but with a slight scuff on the toe. He moves with a quiet, almost apologetic grace, as if trying not to disturb the dust. He picks up one of the circuit boards, just one, and holds it. Not inspecting it, no, just feeling it. And the hum of the lights seems to deepen.
Wow, that's specific. You really thought about the environment, the feel of the quiet.
Of course. It's crucial. Arthur's world is quiet. It's observed. It's internal. His life is an exercise in meticulous observation. He's been overlooked his entire life, you see, dismissed as eccentric, overly analytical, a bit of a fusspot. The kind of guy who corrects the grammar on a company memo. The kind of guy who knows exactly how many paperclips are in the supply closet at any given moment. Not because it's his job, but because it's a data point. A tiny, insignificant piece of information that contributes to the larger, albeit unseen, order.
So he's a savant of the mundane?
You could say that. But it's not just the mundane. He sees the cracks, the structural weaknesses in systems that everyone assumes are monolithic. He's been archiving these slight errors in a series of meticulously handwritten ledgers for years. Not for anyone else, just for himself. A personal testament to the universe's inherent, almost poetic imperfection. A catalog of all the tiny ways things are not quite right. And everyone, they see him shuffling around, mumbling to himself, always with a fountain pen in his shirt pocket, and they just smile politely and patronize him. There goes old Arthur with his little lists.
And no one's listening.
No one. Not until it's almost too late. The central conceit, you see, is that these slight errors, a fluctuation in the grid frequency here, an unaccounted for power surge there, a peculiar pattern in customer complaints, a subtle anomaly in the thermal imaging of a distant substation. They're not isolated incidents. They're symptoms of something vast, something insidious, a slow-motion catastrophe that Arthur, and only Arthur, has been patiently, quietly, cataloging. He realizes it's not just a series of technical glitches. It's a network, a deliberate, almost artistic dismantling, not by a bomb, not by a hacker, but by a process of cumulative, almost invisible sabotage. A slow bleed, designed to look like inevitable decay. And the terrifying thing is, the people doing it, they're hiding in plain sight. They're the system itself. Or, rather, they're burrowed within the system. And Arthur's entire arc is about trying to make himself heard, to convince anyone at all, that the tiny, nagging discrepancies he's been meticulously documenting for decades are, in fact, the blueprint for disaster.
So he's not the hapless guy who accidentally falls into a conspiracy. He uncovers it. He's the architect of the realization.
Exactly. He's not weak-willed. His will is an absolute, unyielding thing, forged in a lifetime of quiet certainty against a backdrop of universal doubt. He's not anxious because he's afraid. He's anxious because he knows. He sees the cliff edge, and everyone else is just admiring the view. His anxiety isn't a flaw. It's a profound, empathetic understanding of impending doom. He's trying to save them, but he has no voice. His greatest challenge isn't fighting a villain. It's being believed. It's battling the inertia of indifference, the colossal weight of bureaucratic blindness. The role for me, it's about that quiet internal strength, the power of observation, the resilience of conviction. It's not about being the loudest in the room, or the strongest, or the most charming. It's about being right and having the absolute, unshakable intellectual integrity to stand by that truth, even when it means dismantling everything you thought you knew about the world, and even when it means everyone thinks you finally, truly, lost it.
That's a powerful kind of heroism, Bill. I can see why it would appeal to you. It's not about external validation, it's about internal truth.
And the payoff, you see, it's not some grand explosion or a last-minute rescue. It's when one person, just one person, finally looks at his ledgers, looks at his charts, looks at his carefully cataloged anomalies, and they see it. The horror, the elegance of the insidious plan, the terror of the truth. It's the moment of shared understanding, a profound, almost spiritual connection over impending catastrophe. That's the real dramatic thrust. That's the climax.
So the movie is about the slow burn of understanding. The moment the fuse finally reaches the powder, not the explosion itself.
Precisely. And in the final scenes, Arthur, he's not a changed man. He's not celebrated. He just is. He survived. He was right. And the system, well, the system limps on, scarred, maybe a little wiser, but he's still just Arthur Pym. Still observing. Still cataloging. Still carrying the quiet burden of accurate perception. Because that's what he does. That's who he is. He's not a hero who saves the day. He's a prophet who warned of the night.
Bill, that is a lot. But hear mine. Right. So Bill, you spend enough years in this business, you see a lot of scripts. Good ones, bad ones, the truly baffling ones. And you also get to a point where you start to think, maybe I could write one of those. Hubris, pure and simple. But it gnaws at you, the urge to tell a story that, well, that feels like yours. Not just a character you play, but a piece of your soul. Or at least a corner of your living room.
Oh, absolutely, Clancy. I've had those late nights staring at a blank page, convinced I had the next great American whatever. Never actually got anything finished, mind you. Too much internal dialogue, I suppose. But I'm intrigued. What was your great American whatever? What was it about?
Well, it never saw the light of day. Not a dime. Not even a development deal. But I still believe in it, damn it. I called it Finch's Imperfect Symmetry.
Finch's Imperfect Symmetry. That's evocative. Very literary. What kind of Finch are we talking about here? A bird? Boat. A character with a very specific kind of name? Like Atticus Finch?
Not a bird, Billy. Though there's a quietness to it, a patience that might connect to that. No, this Finch, he's a man, Arthur Finch. And it's a story about the meticulous, almost obsessive beauty of a life lived in exquisite, almost forgotten detail.
Forgotten detail? So, like, a historical drama? A period piece?
Not quite. Contemporary. But it's about a world that's slipping away, a set of skills, a way of seeing. Think less historical drama and more philosophical character study wrapped in the skin of a slow burn meditation on craftsmanship.
Okay, I'm listening. How does this philosophical character study begin? What's the first thing we see?
We open on the minutiae of a single, hand-carved dovetail joint. The camera, on a Panavision anamorphic lens, pushes in, slowly, inexorably, until the grain of the century-old oak fills the entire frame. The fibers, the subtle imperfections, the history etched into the wood, it's all there. An entire universe in a few square inches. We hear the faint, rhythmic whisper of a handplane, then the subtle rasp of sandpaper, and only then does the camera ever so slightly pull back, revealing a pair of large, calloused, yet incredibly gentle hands meticulously working the wood. No face. Not yet. Just the hands. The careful, almost reverent way the thumb tests the edge, the way the fingers guide the blade. We see the dust motes dancing in the single shaft of late afternoon light, slicing through a dusty workshop. The air is thick with the scent of wood, of linseed oil, of quiet industry. It's a sensory experience before it's even a narrative one. We're inviting the audience into this space, into this world, before we introduce them to the man who inhabits it. It's about the texture of life, Billy, the quiet dignity of it.
Wow. That's a beautiful image, Clancy. Very evocative. I can almost smell the wood. So, these hands, they belong to Arthur Finch, I assume?
Indeed, they belong to Arthur. And Arthur is me. I wrote him for me. Not the me that barks orders or looms menacingly. Not the me that carries a big gun or an even bigger axe. But the me that gets quietly obsessed with a small detail. The me that spends an hour trying to get a perfect knot in a piece of twine. The me that finds a strange solace in the precise, repetitive movements of craft. Arthur Finch is a bespoke furniture restorer. A craftsman of the highest order, but entirely unnoticed by the wider world. He runs a small, dusty shop that smells of sawdust and old stories. His clientele is niche, discreet, wealthy, and almost as obsessive as he is about preserving the past. He doesn't build new things, not really. He resurrects them. He takes pieces of furniture, a chest of drawers from the Napoleonic era, a Queen Anne writing desk, a forgotten shaker stool, and brings them back to life. He doesn't just repair them. He understands their soul, their original intent.
So he's a quiet artisan. That's certainly different from what we usually see you do, Clancy. No disrespect, of course. But you've got such a commanding presence, such a voice. It's hard to imagine you as someone unnoticed.
Exactly, Billy. That's precisely the point. Everyone sees the bark, the gravitas, the imposing frame. They see the heavy, the general, the stern authority. And sometimes, yeah, that's fun to play. There's a certain power in it. But what about the internal landscape? What about the strength and stillness? What about the man who looks like he could tear a phone book in half, but spends his days meticulously inlaying mother of pearl, or matching a precise shade of stain that only he can truly appreciate? Arthur is a man of immense physical presence, yes. He has the kind of hands that look like they could crush walnuts, but they are capable of the most delicate, intricate work. His struggle isn't against a villain with a bigger army. It's against a faulty hinge, a dry rot that threatens to undo centuries of craftsmanship, or his own inability to achieve the perfect, imperfect symmetry that defined the original artisan's touch.
Ah, imperfect symmetry. So it's about the beauty and the flaws, the human element in the handmade?
More than that, Billy. It's about the beauty in his flaws, his own internal struggles to reach that unattainable perfection. The film's plot, such as it is, revolves around Arthur taking on his most challenging restoration yet, a rare, exquisitely crafted cabinet from the late 17th century, rumored to have been built by a reclusive master who left a subtle, almost invisible, personal signature in every piece. Arthur's task isn't just to restore it physically, but to understand and replicate that master's unique, deliberate flaw, that imperfect symmetry. He has to get inside the mind of a ghost. And in doing so, he has to confront his own ghosts. This isn't about explosions or car chases. It's about the infinitesimal movements of a chisel. It's about the quiet desperation of a man who understands that true artistry isn't about being flawless, but about embracing the unique human signature that makes something alive. He's driven by a profound respect for the past, a yearning for connection across centuries through craft.
That's incredibly specific, Clancy. And deeply personal, it sounds like. I can see why you'd want to tell that story. It's almost meditative, a slow, unfolding process of discovery, both external and internal.
That's the hope, Billy. That's the hope. We'd linger on the textures, the way the wood grain catches the light, the subtle shifts in color as a patina is applied, the gentle pressure of a hand as it sands. It's a film that demands patience from its audience, an appreciation for the subtle, the nuanced. The drama isn't in who did it or who gets away. It's in whether Arthur can find that one deliberate, artistic mistake, and whether he can forgive himself for his own. It's a quiet rebellion against the loud, frantic pace of modern life, against the instant gratification. It says, slow down, look closer. There's beauty in the struggle, in the imperfection, in the journey itself.
You know, Clancy, I've heard a lot of pitches over the years. Some wild ones, some utterly brilliant. And this feels like it came straight from a different era, like something Ingmar Bergman would have appreciated, or maybe even a Japanese master like Ozu, but about furniture.
High praise, Billy. I'll take it. And I think that's why it never got made. The notes I got, they were exactly what you'd expect. Where's the stakes? Does he find a hidden treasure in the cabinet? Can we make the villain a rival furniture restorer who uses power tools?
Oh no. Not a rival furniture restorer with power tools. The horror.
The horror. I said, the stakes are existential. The treasure is self-knowledge. And the villain is time and indifference and the impossibility of true perfection. You can imagine how well that went over.
Yeah, I can. Because it's not easily packaged, is it? It's not a tentpole. It's not even a prestige picture in the usual sense. It's too delicate, too introspective for the current climate. It requires faith in the audience to simply be with the character.
Exactly. They want the loud, the obvious. They want the comfort of genre. This is a whisper in a crowded room, and whispers, as powerful as they can be, rarely get funded for 8-figure budgets. It's a shame. There's a hunger out there, I think, for stories that breathe, for characters whose internal lives are the main event. But Hollywood, bless its heart, rarely trusts that hunger.
No, they don't. They really don't. They prefer to feed what they think the audience wants, which is usually just more of what worked last time.
So, Finch's Imperfect Symmetry. A dream. A quiet, dusty, beautifully unfinished dream. Maybe one day, someone with pockets deep enough and a soul patient enough will see it for what it is. Until then, it'll just be me, muttering to myself about dovetail joints.
Well, Clancy, if you ever find that soul, count me in for a supporting role. I'd love to watch you work on that cabinet.
I'll keep you in mind, Billy. I'll keep you in mind. For now, it seems Hollywood just isn't quite ready for the quiet dignity of a